All right, so in the last video, I mentioned that I have a portable version of the tool shown in our YouTube video. It's made by Genoptic. It's made by Genoptic, and the model is the Hummel Edamac 5, W5. And this is just a portable version that is able to be used on a phone, has extendable legs to make it so you can set it on a bench top and allow it to do, it draws the reader needle across the surface to give you a measurement of the scratch. Let me hurry and close this back up. The box is kind of a piece of junk, and I travel with it, take it with me in the suitcase, so it takes a little bit of a beating, and the hinges are broken over time, so I have tape. Okay, so what I've done since the last video is all I did was flip the towel over just to keep the abrasive compound on the other side. I changed this, grabbed a new one of these anti-slip so that I don't have any of the abrasive compound getting in and interfering with my polishing process. So what we'll do now is, in the communication I had mentioned an SPT polisher. This is a Flex, made by Flex. I found this one before I found the SPT. The SPT is more cost effective than this version, and that's why I suggest the SPT now. These backing pads are available online. Mirka doesn't make the polisher or the backing pad for these, so I've written down the part number on the backing pad, so when the time comes and I need to reorder, I know which backing pad or what part number it is. There are other backing pads available that I've ordered from Amazon. Just in the future, I will give them a test once I have worn through that one. They don't wear out very quickly. All right, our first step is the Mirka polishing pad, step 1. So we have 2 polishing pads. Step 1 comes 5 per package. They're sold in units of 5. Step 2 comes 20 per package, and they're much thinner polishing pads. Both of them use a Velcro style attachment. So we'll open this up. It's a synthetic material. It's not real lamb's wool. What I like to do before I use it is just dampen it just a little bit. Give it a couple of squirts. Once you've used it, it will be working just fine, and you won't need to do that again. Then Mirka makes, part of our remint process is polishing compound H and polishing compound M. The H stands for hand processing, if we're going to do polishing by hand. M was designed for mechanical or machine polishing. If you have an automated polishing process where the phones pass down through and are polished by a machine, M was designed with that in mind. It's a little different formulation. So since we're doing by hand, we'll use the H process, and I already burped them once, so I didn't have the issue that I had with the abrasive compound. So I'll apply a little bit. With a brand new pad, they're very much like a sponge, so it'll take quite a bit to get it saturated with compound. But once you've used it for a little bit and the pad is saturated, it'll require much less of the polishing compound. So I just like to essentially preload the pad, get a little bit of the compound on it, work it in a little bit, just for the reason that when I'm going along, I need to stop and apply water or apply liquid much less if I've worked it in a little bit. So apply it here. Now with the polisher, this is the key is variable speed. So as you can see, this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll start on 1, maybe go to 1.5. Where does it say? Oh, this one doesn't give me what the RPMs translate to. With this polisher, number 1 is at about 800 RPM. So I'll stay right between 800 and 1200. Number 2 is 1200. So with that said, I'll apply a couple dots of this to the phone and start polishing. As you saw in the video on YouTube, our process, the equipment that was used in our lab, they have the phone surface sits down into a sunken basin because of the sling off that happens. It's a very runny polish, and so the centripetal force causes the polish to run off. And as you can see, it's already starting to dry, and we don't want that. When it dries, it creates heat. And so when you're working on an enclosed phone, heat is the enemy. So we'll just apply water as we go to keep it damp and to keep our temperature down. And that's the same reason why we don't use the high RPM. And in an ideal world, I would have a fixture that holds the phone completely flat and perfect and unstable, but this is a basement operation. So, and then also one of the things that our lab has is we have a spout that has a little nozzle similar to this nozzle on the squirt bottle that is foot operated. So the operator will just bump it with his foot and it'll give a little spritz of water. Other methods we've tried is a little drip system that just drips every 3 to 5 seconds, and it'll drop a drop of water on there just to keep things wet so that you're able to produce more phones. But this isn't a production atmosphere here in the Eskelsen family basement. So that being the case, I'm using a squirt bottle. And again, we're doing very similar motion as when we did the sanding, just working our way back and forth along the phone to ensure that we're evenly covering the phone. Now with that, I'm gonna stop and wipe off and see how things are looking. Now the phone's, it's warm, but it's absolutely not hot. I've done this before with phones when they've been turned on, and just leave them turned on and you can see it still registers the apps and wants to pull up the applications. All right, so we're starting to get, not sure if, there we go. To get a little bit of shine out of that after not very long. The pressure that I'm applying is not much pressure either. I'm actually taking some of the pressure of the polisher, the weight of the polisher, off the process, or off the face of the phone. I'm really just letting the polish and the pad do the work, and just with a little bit of time, it starts to shine back up. And the secret is the polish. When we're doing either of the sanding or the polishing step, it's the compound that's being used is critical. That's what's doing the work. I liken it to doing sand. It's liquid sandpaper. So if you don't have enough of it on there, the sandpaper's not going to do the work. Make sure you get the edges. The edges of the phone are usually the last thing to become polished, and that's because the center, no matter if you're using a 3-inch pad, the center is always in contact, where the edges may not be. And once proficient at the process, usually it takes about 3 minutes total for the sanding process or the scratch removal process, and about 8 minutes of polishing. So you might want to fast forward at this point till you see that I'm through with step 1 of the polish, where I don't have time-lapse ability, or you can just watch and I'll be quiet. It looks like got a little bit of a dull spot that needs more attention there in this corner. So I'll focus on that as I continue to do the entire phone. You can see this pad is holding up very well. I'm using not too much of the compound in the process. 1 liter will last many, many phones. One pad, at the slower the RPM, the longer it holds up. What we found is, because it's not a real dense pad, if you spin it too fast or with a lot of pressure, which we see sometimes in a mechanical application, it will wear out the pads quicker. But in a manual operation, the pads hold up very well. That was a lot. As do the copper pads. I didn't mention that. I failed to mention that in the sanding demo or the scratch removal demo. One copper pad will last, should last, a 3-inch pad should last at least 5 glass surfaces. So it depends if you're doing a front or a back glass, but 5 different surfaces would be the minimal for a copper pad. And then with the copper pad, the abrasive compound 10 does wear down the copper pad faster than the 30. So you'll see that if you do dedicated stations, your 30 compound station will require fewer copper pads than the abrasive compound 10 station. And they're just doing the 10 is doing more time or sanding time as well. So these are all things you'll note as you play with the process and applications and the products in-house. And then with this process, you'll notice as you're doing it, the buffer really grabs on with the pad and the phone. It really grabs on, so it does take a little bit of finesse to not allow the polisher to just go wherever it wants, to drive the polisher but not have it grabbing on and biting the screen more than you would like. All right, we're gonna stop there and see how she's looking. All right, that's getting better. We'll lift it up here and see how things are looking in the light. I'll grab a new cloth. If I can get the glass clean. There we go. That orange microfiber towel feels like it's almost water repellent. It did not want to clean the glass. Just trying to get all the smears of the compound off there so that I can show the camera our result thus far without any streaks. Well, I feel like I could be doing this for days to get it streak free with these dirty hands that I keep touching the screen with and then smearing the compound around. Well, I need to do a little bit more there. So all that cleaning time, I need to continue on. And since the rest of the phone is looking good, I will focus mostly on this corner here for this polishing step. As you can see, my setup is wanting to twist a little bit with the torque of the buffer as it bites the glass as we're doing the polishing. That's where the random orbit from the sander is very nice, but random orbit in this application in the polishing, it takes forever. It'll get you there, but you'll tire of the process long before you get the foam polish. All right, let's see how we're looking there. I'm gonna just leave it in place. Wipe it rather than use my hands. Find a clean spot on the towel. As I mentioned in sanding process, you'll go through a lot of towels doing this. It'll be good to have a on-site washing machine that at the end of the shift you can just launder your own towels and reuse them. That is in a production atmosphere. All right, that looks a lot better. There's still a few streaks that I've left in the phone. But, oh, there's a crack in the phone glass that I did not notice before. But anyway, so not sure if you can see there is a little, I'm trying to rotate just to get the right reflection, and there's just a small little texture with to the glass. It's minimal and most people wouldn't notice it. Not sure unless it's pointed out to them, but we do have a solution for that, and that's where the step 2 polishing process comes into play. This is our step 2 pad. When I told you earlier it was Velcro, I was mistaken. It is actually PSA, so I need to change the backing pad. I'm gonna pause this and pick it up in a minute.